Let's dive into prettier thoughts. I want to talk about this. I know we have so much to get through. Let's start with this idea. What does that phrase mean to you?
So, for prettier thoughts, it's this idea that we need a heavenly makeover. So, by default, we all have a standard brain. It's normal, but it's also fear based. So, that's where we have anxiety, overwhelm, worry, and our brain and our body naturally go into that response. It's normal. It's autopilot. So we just keep doing the same thing we always do. And the problem is, if we want anything different, we have to shift out of autopilot, out of our system one brain, and we have to go into system two and we have to do something different. So if we want to have prettier thoughts, it's not going to happen by a magic wand. We're not just going to start to think our way there. It's kind of like if someone's ever looked at you and been like, "Hey, Gabe, I can see you're upset right now. Just calm down." And you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to hit you with a stick and then I'm going to go back to being upset." And you're like, "Oh." But if you actually wanted to have prettier thoughts in that moment, you would have to do something different. And it doesn't mean looking down at your body and going, "All right, chill, buddy. I need you to calm down and we're going to respond to this," because your body doesn't understand words. It understands breath, it understands movement, it understands music. So we have to first, if we're going to have prettier thoughts, we have to pull it back out and have something I like to call metacognition. So, metacognition is thinking about your thoughts. And how I kind of describe it to people is imagine that you are in the middle of this big raging river and there's this giant rock in the middle of the river. So you sit on the rock and you watch your thoughts go by. You notice your thoughts go by. It might be overwhelming thoughts. It might be, "Oh, things are going really well" thoughts. It doesn't matter, but you notice them. Not judge them, but watch them go by. And that's being still. And that's being sitting on the rock of Jesus as our foundation and having those experiences, but seeing them and being able to respond to them. So if we're able to have that metacognition and really think about our thoughts, then we can choose. That's the big thing. We can choose to refocus them. But in order to do that, we have to talk to our body first because they will tell you out there's mantras, there's affirmations you can do. You can do it till you're blue in the face, but your body's not embodying any of it. It doesn't care. So how do you speak to your body? You have to move it. You have to move your body around. And what that's going to do is it's going to settle your stress response. It's going to make it so your body can actually refocus its attention. And then what we do to get those prettier thoughts, once we've settled our body down, then we need to spotlight what's going on in our brain with good questions. So it's the neuroscience of attention. So we spotlight with specific questions grounded in God's truth. And what that's going to do is that's going to take our attention towards what's true, what matters. It's going to take us out of our standard brain and take us into a resilient brain. And that's our love brain. That's where things are clearer. So once we spotlight that, then we also take prayer and we take breath because that's also communicating to our body. And that's how we're able to refocus and recharge. So if we want prettier thoughts, we need a heavenly makeover, but it's not about lipstick, which makes me sad. I like lipstick. It's not about lighting. It is about light. So I used to think that transformation meant, you got to fix yourself. I'm going to go buy that new planner. I'm going to start a new habit, a new devotional. I'm just going to lean in and try a little harder. But all that did was make me a little tired and a little spiritual dizziness, right? So a heavenly makeover for prettier thoughts to get to that resilient love brain, it isn't this surface level renovation. It is a soul level reset. It's not redecorating your life, it's renewing your mind. So this is mental training, not just mindset, because our brains, they get stuck in these loops, right? Fear, comparison, imposter syndrome, anxiety, and we replay the same stories over and over again. And it's normal. That's what we do by default. But instead of just talking to our thoughts, we train them through our bodies. We close stress cycles. We breathe truth into our nervous systems, and we create new neural pathways to build on peace, not panic. So the result, okay, man, your body feels better, your mind grows quieter, and your spirit grows closer to Jesus because you don't just believe the truth, you are actually embodying it. And that's where you start to grow these more beautiful thoughts because the thought weeds of cognitive distortion get pulled out because we've refocused our attention, we've recharged in Christ, and now we can bloom with those more beautiful thoughts. So I always tell girls it's like this internal makeover that lets you finally wear your crown. Not as something you have to earn, not as something of a place of pride, but as something you were always meant to carry. And I'll be very honest with you because you are an amazing runner. It's also replaced my gym membership because I have to move to get those prettier thoughts. So now my soul and my body get a workout too. So those are the prettier thoughts.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, I want to dive deep into this for a minute. And I was just thinking, like, it's funny because when I do movement, when I'm running, I start like having revelations. It's like I have some alone time with God and things like that. So it probably has to do with that. And maybe we talk about that in a minute. But I want to kind of talk about, bridge the gap between toxic positivity or fake
Mhm.
positivity and thinking prettier thoughts in a biblical, spiritual way. I love how you brought in like it's a renewing of the mind because my business life verse is Romans 12:2, which is, don't be conformed into the world, but be conformed by the renewing of your mind. And I think that's an important piece and not something that we do once. It's like a daily habit, it's a daily ritual. But some people get stuck or like in the toxic positivity. You don't want to say what's actually going on in your life. You can't be realistic. You have to say what you want. You have to be positive all the time. I was in that world for a long time when I was in like the MLM world. And
Mm.
it was like we couldn't be real. We were so fake. And it was like everything's great and everything's cheery. And there's nothing going on in my life that's bad. Or, I'm completely healed and whole. And yes, I believe we should say that. But like there's a difference between being fake and having that toxic positivity and real change. So I'd love to hear kind of your perspective of what that might be and maybe what you've seen.
I I am 100% in agreement with you because I think toxic positivity has started to kind of take over our culture. It's kind of like this self-help culture where if I can just bootstrap it and I can put on a pretty smile and just call it a day and I just nod really happy and I say good things, everything's going to be okay. But the reality is it doesn't change you inside and it doesn't change your circumstances. So a couple things with that, I can't remember the name of the book right now, but is this amazing author, and he went through this trying time. He was a prisoner of war, and he was in the highest ranking leader, and he was in this prisoner of war camp, and all of the men around him were just falling apart. They were getting beaten, they were getting abused, they were getting starved. And he rallied the troops together, not by saying, "We're going to be okay, my friends," not like, "Oh, life's going to be great, put a smile on, we're fine in here." What he did is he addressed the hard things that were going on, and then he he went at it with hope. So he said, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but basically he said, "You have to address the hard things with hope." So it's like, yes, we have a lot of hard things happening around and inside, but I want to look at it with hope. So it's not to say, well, bad things aren't happening. It's not to say that I'm not hurting or this isn't hard or I'm not feeling a little broken. It's saying I am feeling broken, but I'm hopeful because my strength isn't in me being able to fix myself. It's in Jesus being able to come in and put me back together so I can be okay and I can have hope even while things are hard. And the hard part about toxic positivity is it's incongruent. So you go with your face and you go, "Yeah, things are great. Praise Jesus. Life is just going really well, really good." But the reality is your body's not feeling that. If you're going through something or if you're internally struggling, you're already in a stress response. And you'll know that because your shoulders hike up more often. You'll notice that because you stay more in your system one autopilot negative brain. So even though you're not feeling positive, you're feeling really low and negative, you keep saying things, but your body's not believing it. So in turn, the hard part is when you run up against those people, we don't trust them because they say, "Oh, things are great and fine," but you know the reality. And so for them, they're incongruent. We don't trust them. They don't trust themselves. And it leads to this brokenness. And if we can't get to the point of understanding that we cannot fix ourselves, that's why we need a savior. So we can't pretend that life's all rosy. We have to acknowledge that it's hard and then have a hopeful expectation in Jesus through that hard.
Oh my gosh. Yes and amen. That
Yes,
was
and
such a
amen.
great way to put it. Like we have the hope, right? Like God didn't promise a life of bliss. He promised that there would be trials. He promised that there would be turbulation, but he also promised that he'd be right there. And he also promises that his plans are better than what we could even imagine. And I was doing a study in Habakkuk just recently, And it got me thinking because we kind of tend to be like, well, what if this? Or,
Mhm.
we kind of dwell in the hard and the bad in the immediate. But what Habakkuk essentially pulls out is even if the worst possible thing
Mhm.
happens, I know it's going to be okay because I have hope and I have God and he will bring me through. Like it's just a different perspective. And I think that thinking prettier thoughts is that different perspective. It's like we're not faking ourselves out. We
Yeah.
don't have to pretend that everything's okay, but we have the hope to move forward knowing that if we do, God will pull us through. We don't know why we're going through what we're going through. That's the biggest question of being a Christian. Why is this happening to me? Why is it the bad things? Or why does this always, right? Like we have the why, but
Mhm.
if we shifted it to even though I don't know why, even if I know I have a hope in Jesus and I can be positive about the outcome because we already know we win. We already know that we are going to be, we're healed and whole. If we aren't healed and whole here, we're healed and whole in heaven. So there is that hope.
And I love that you bring up that hope because I think we have two different sides that really kind of struggle. We have maybe more the worldly side that says, hey, think your way positive, just say a good mantra. You got an affirmation for days, my friend, and this is going to help us. And then sometimes we get over here, and I'm not saying on the Jesus end, I'm saying on the religious end, where you get entities that go, well, no, we can't think good thoughts. We can't be positive. And it's like, well, if I have the option between negative or positive, I'm definitely going to choose positive, but I'm going to do it through hopeful expectation of saying, yes, I believe there are good things that are in store for me. I believe that my good Father who has been faithful that time and that time and that time, that he's going to be faithful the next time. That is my hope. So I can have joy. So I think we need to find a way that we can bring those two worlds together because we have over here the science where they're saying, well, we can do this from positive psychology. We have, the religion on this side that says, well, life's going to be hard. We were made to suffer. I do agree that life is going to be hard, but I don't believe that we were meant to suffer in the way that sometimes we take it. I believe that we can live with joy and we can live with the beauty of the world around us because we have that hope. So even though we go through hard times, they don't feel as hard because we're connected to the one that makes it lighter. So that's kind of that bridge that I think we need to bring between religion and science to actually come into relationship for real change, lasting change, and living with hope. So I love that you said that. And the funniest thing is, one of my friends, she sent me a video this morning, and it literally talks about what you were saying. And in the video, this little girl, she's adorable. She's talking, but she's like, you pray for patience. And God brings you opportunities and situations where you get to practice it in real time. And you're like, Lord, give me courage. And he's like, great, I'm going to have you do something really hard that does not feel good in any situation. He's there. You're like, Lord, I just want to be resilient. He's like, great, I'm going to just crush some things so you can learn how to grow from it through me. And then at the end, which you're going to love because this is your world, is that refiner's fire, like that forge where you go into. And it's not what you went through to get to the end result because we're going towards the hope and the glory and the finish line, right? And so it's how do we go through that refiner's fire of all those hard things without feeling that heaviness? That's the prettier thoughts, that we go through that refiner's fire, but we don't live in that negative. We feel that hope and that lightness because that's what God carries us through to that finish line.
If we don't live in the negative, I think that's the important piece. It's like the prettier thoughts help us not live there. There's like this funny little quote that says, "If you're going through hell, don't stop. Right? You want to keep going, right?"
Yes.
And so that kind of reminded me of that. I love that I don't pray for patience. I never do anymore. I say, don't pray for patience because you're not going to like what he does for you to learn patience. I've done that too many times. Now, I do want to, okay, I'm going to go back a second because you had mentioned affirmations. And I think this is kind of a taboo topic because there's on both sides. There's the sides of you have to have affirmations, and there's the side that says they are evil and bad. And I think there's a middle ground when it comes to it. And hear me out on this. I used to be all about the I am statements. Like I was in kind of like the new agey world where it was like, yes, I am this and I am that. And then you think about it, when you dive deep into that, it's kind of what you were saying. It's about that's like self-love, that's self-care, that's self whatever. It's about the self. Well, we weren't made to be about the self. We were made to be about Christ. And so now when I say things, like I do think saying positive things is a good thing. Like I want to train my brain to know, but I do it scripturally, right? It's like a meditation in a way. It's I am worthy
Yeah.
because of Christ. I'm not worthy and it's okay, but I am worthy because of Christ. I am, strong because he has made me strong and he is my strength and he will do what I can't. He is strong in my weakness, right? So I like to think about it in that way. Not I bring scripture into it and go, I am these things because God has made me that way. It's because of God, and I'm none of that without him. It is not about the self. It is about how can I have more God discovery? How can I be more have more relation with him. And when I do that, I see me through his eyes because he has made me in his image, right? So I would love to hear kind of what's your perspective on the affirmation culture.
Oh, I love that you asked. And again, I'm not saying my way is the right way, but here's my perspective on first of all, I think yes, we should have positive self-talk. I would never be from the lens of saying, well, we should really be down on ourselves because that's not holy. Like to say, well, you're not that great, Ash, or you're just not enough. Like that's I'm going to believe that. Words are powerful and words matter and our brains and our bodies do embody them. So I absolutely believe that we should have God honoring positive self talk. And I love a good I am statement. And I'm with you though, because it has to come from the right posture. It's not I am worthy because I did XYZ. That's performance based. I am loved because I did XYZ. Again, performance based. But I am loved. I am worthy because I have a savior who has filled me up. So, what I try and explain to women, and I think positive affirmations go right into this, is I think of it like a cup. So for many seasons, I was always trying to do the right things. I did try the positive affirmations. I did try doing all these things. I was leading, I was serving, I was pouring out, but inside I was like running on caffeine fumes and fear. Like that's the holy trinity right there that I was like, this is not going well. And one day it hit me. I wasn't being holy. I was just being empty. So the words were like those were like pretty wrapping paper. Like that's the outside, transformation. You talk about your friends who like say things that are, oh, things are great. That's just pretty. It's wrapping. It looks nice on the outside, but it doesn't show the heart of what's going on in the inside. And so the reality is so often we pour out to everybody else and we try and make it look good and have pretty wrapping on the outside. But if we don't let God pour into us, then we're running on empty. And I think that's the point of having those I am statements. When we are filled with the world, when we are filled with our own I can do attitude, and we're putting it into all these cups, we have this giant cup of expectation. And this is how we think it's going to look. This is how we think it's going to feel. And it never gets filled up. It never goes all the way there because we can't. So we have to change that. We can't pour from an empty cup. We can't just say a nice word and actually live that and say, I'm just the best. It doesn't make it true and it doesn't make me live from that. So we have to fill to the brim with God's peace. So that's going to be going back to scripture. That's going to be reminding ourselves of what he says, pouring God's truth into our cup. That's why it's so important when we wake up first thing in the morning that we spend time with him. So we're getting filled with truth. We're getting filled with light. We're getting filled with, yes, the positive, because God is not a God of negativity or confusion. He does want to fill us with that light. And when we do that, then we get filled to the brim. And here's my favorite metaphor that I tell women, and it changed my life. I went to a class and they talked about this cup. And they said, when you fill your cup all the way up to the top and the liquid is right there at the surface level, that's called the crown. And when the liquid goes down, those little lines are called the tears. So I think about that and I tell women, think about it that way. When you are filled up with Jesus, you get all the way to the top. You get to the brim. And there's a verse in the message translations of Psalm 23 that I'm brimming with blessing. And when we're at the top and we're filled by him, we are brimming with blessing. We are wearing our crown. And that doesn't come from a place of pride at that point. It's a place of identity. So when we are making those affirmations, I am loved, I am worthy, we are saying that as women who are wearing our crown, who believe that we are image bearers and God made us, and that is the truth he has spoken over us, and that's part of our rescue story. So that's my thought on
Oh my
affirmation.
gosh. That's so good because you're talking about it just not, again, not being about the self. It's about our identity in Christ. I mean, the world says that we can be our own mini gods. Like you do you, it's your truth, it's your, but what you're saying is you're speaking truth that God says. You're speaking his truth. And it's, I mean, I feel like there's a toxic positivity and there's a toxic negativity. Like we can think, oh, well, we need to think lower of ourselves because we are, and that's not what, if we're thinking about being image bearers of God, we can't go that direction either. That's why the affirmations are important. But like you said, you have to think about them in your identity. And so I love that because, yeah, some people are like, no, you can never do the affirmations. I'm like, let me tell you a quick story. And I haven't talked about this a lot lately, but when I was going through college, I had that very, very deep depression, like suicidal thoughts, like very, very, very deep, which as a Christian, that's very shameful because you're like, oh, that's bad. That's a sin and all the things. And that the thoughts that come are not good thoughts, right? But moving through there after getting help and really seeing that I needed help, the one book I read that changed my life, I'll say, was What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it was all about how to talk to yourself, right? And not Christian based, but it did help me retrain the fact that I can't just live in this negative because I'm kind of in that toxic negativity. I need to pull myself out of that and really start identifying who does God say I am and start speaking that. And I'm telling you, that retrained my brain. And after 18 months, I was able to come off all medications. And I'm not saying that I'm completely perfect. I see myself go into those places sometimes, but now I have tools to pull myself out and to say, no, I'm not going to live there. I'm not going to live in that despair and that depression. I'm going to live in what you were talking about, that hope, the hope that we have in the Lord.
And I love that you found that because first of all, I could do a whole session because I have very deep thoughts on suicidal ideations because of things that have happened in my family, and it's shameful how not how that presents, but how it's responded to by the church sometimes because it's its own adventure and it's not something that we can control. So the fact that it became a shameful thing is hard for me. That'll be another episode.
Yeah, we
But
could do that.
I agree. I think we are, because again, our default mode is negativity. They say about 73% of our thoughts are negative. And I don't think God wired us to live in negativity. That's why we have brains that can reshape themselves, because he brings hope and healing through this, that we're not just left. And I think a lot of time in certain spheres, it becomes this self-flagellation. It becomes this, I'm humble. I would never say anything good about myself. And I'm with you. The reality is, I do not believe for a minute that is God honoring. About 2 years ago, I went to this place where I said, words are so powerful. What I speak out is what my brain starts to think. So I have to be very careful of what I'm thinking and what I'm saying. So it's even little things like when I'm coming inside after a long day, I don't say, "Oh, I'm tired." I won't say it because if I say that or I think it, that's going to become my reality. My emotions are going to match, and then my decisions are going to come after that. So I think guarding our words and only saying it from a love truth lens is something we could all do better at. And I've tried to make it my goal these past 2 years that I don't want to say anything negative about myself. I want to reframe it. And I think the power to reframe something in God's truth and to do it from a place of light and love instead of fear and overwhelm, I think that is part of the Christian transformation to experience the joy of our salvation. So I think being able to say those words is critical, not because those words are what changes us, it's because those words are linked to God's truth, and that's what he wants to say over us. So I love a good I am statement. I say them all the time. I have them in my Love Move resets because I think we have to speak God's words over us. We have everybody else shouting in our ears, saying all these things from both sides. But what does God say? And how do we bring that stillness into our day and into our moments?
What does God say about it? Love it. Now, I want to dive into your 6 minute resets now because you blend that neuroscience movement and prayer. And I've never heard blending movement. So this is kind of a new concept to me. And I love that, like how you were talking about it in the beginning. So it's a very unique mix. So I'd love for you to just kind of walk us through how that works and why it's so effective.
Yes. So the Love Moves, the book that's coming out later next year, the actual resets, they came from a place of deep desperation. I needed something different and I needed something new, a new habit, a new way of being, because I was really kind of like you. I had a very similar situation where I was very much mired in the negativity and the overwhelm. And it wasn't the circumstances. They were pretty dire, to be honest, but the circumstances were making me be and feel this certain way. And so I needed something different. And so I always tell people, picture this. You know, those little snow globes you get at Christmas? They're beautiful, they're magical. And then you shake them up and you're like, well, I actually can't see what's going on the inside of the snow globe. What's happening? And the reality is, that's most of us on most days. We're the snow globe. Just imagine you're this weirdo person with a little snow globe sitting inside of you. And thoughts, stress, to do lists, emotions swirl everywhere. And we're stuck in that common fear brain. And so, what do we do to try and make it better? Well, we shake harder, we try and do more, we hustle, or we try and numb out to rest. We'll watch Netflix on repeat and we plant, we pray louder. But the more we shake, the cloudier it gets. Because the reality is, when our bodies go into a stress response, our fight, flight, or freeze, we have that sympathetic nervous system that takes over. And we cannot control our thoughts at that point. We can, and then our thoughts now create our emotions, and those emotions create our behaviors. So we're making decisions from this crazy shaken snow globe, and we're just trying to keep it all together. But what we really need is a reset moment to stop shaking and let it settle. And there is only one way to invite our bodies to settle, and that's through speaking to it differently, through breath and through movement. And movement's one of the best ways, because clarity doesn't come from control, it actually comes from stillness. So that's what a Love Move Reset does. First of all, you're invited to start shifting your body. We're going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. We're going to close your stress cycle, and we're going to move from survival to safety. And when you do that, and I guide you through the whole thing, I've got amazing videos, but as you do that, you're telling your brain, we're okay. No one's trying to kill us. We're good. We can set that snow globe down. We can breathe, and the snow starts to settle. And suddenly you can start to see again. You can see what matters, what's true, what's next. But here's where the faith piece comes in, because they have the neuroscience of attention. It talks about our three levels of attention, and one of them is spotlighting. And that's when we focus on one thing, like a narrow flashlight beam. So you take that flashlight beam and you use good questions grounded in God's truth, and that puts your thoughts, and it actually starts to capture them so you can embody it, and you can start focusing on what God says and what matters and what comes next. So, and then we always start and end with prayer. But the reality is, we don't need to escape the swirl. It's normal. We're all in autopilot. We're living our swirl mode. We just need to have a process to let the snow settle. So what that looks like is that metacognition that we talked about, is to step away and be like, oh, oh, I see what's happening here. I see where my thoughts are going. Now I'm going to choose to come in, and I'm going to reset and refocus God's way. And that's really how we recharge. That's how we start growing more beautiful thoughts. Because if you think of our brains like this garden, this mind garden, when we get overwhelmed and the snow globe is shaking, it just cracks and it breaks, and we have this rough foundation. But from that, he can grow this garden of grace from those cracks. But that means we have to pull out those thought weeds that are tangling up inside our snow globe that make us ruminate and just think on the negative. Let him pull those out and refocus our attention and put it back onto what he says. So that's what we do. And it's 6 minutes. I did all the research. We've been doing this for a while now. And it's amazing to see how not just we can refill in a moment to refill our cups with him, but also how we can actually start training our brain to start doing something new. And the beauty of it is, if you do it for a certain amount of time, and I guide the women through it, you actually start reshaping your brain. You have neuroplasticity, this amazing way that God designed our brains to be stretchy and to change when we choose to take a different path and respond and not react.
Mm, that sounds so lovely. I love
I
that.
will send you one. You will love it. It's amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm curious, when it comes to the 6 minute reset, how often do you find that you or people that you work with have to do it? Like, or when do we see, like, when is that moment where we're like, we need that 6 minute reset? Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Mm.
Two things I tell people. One is it's got to become a habit. It's got to be like flossing. This is like your flossing. No one wants to do it, but you have to do it if you want to see real change. It's like that keystone habit. You do this one thing, and I tell women if you can do it first thing when you get up in the morning or as soon as you're able, the kids get out of the house and you're like, all right, it's time for my 6 minutes. But starting your day with a love move reset is one of those keystone habits that will ripple out and change everything. So you're saying, I am committing to doing this. And what it does is you're starting your day with what, all the top researchers say, you have movement, you have sunlight, you have connection, you have Jesus, you have all of these things that you're bringing together into one. But the reality is the more you do it, the more it's going to change you on the inside. It's that heavenly makeover for prettier thoughts. So I tell women you do one a day to start in the morning, start slow, like don't overwhelm yourself. We need to start small to create these habits. Start one and then go to a midday reset. Find a spot in the middle of your day. Anytime when you have like a 45-minute block and it's going to go on longer, you need to just even scientifically, you need to get up and move. So this is a great time to plan a reset. And I tell women, put it in your planner. I have trackers. You go through and say, this is when I'm going to do this reset. And then at nighttime, I have these beautiful resets where you're stretching your body, you're closing stress loops, and you're finding peace with Jesus as you go to bed. But the biggest thing I tell women is that metacognition. Notice when you need it. When are your shoulders hiking up? When are you start to having those thoughts of like, oh, I'm a little nervous about this. What am I going to do? Like, I'll be real with you. I was like, I get to meet Gabe Cox today. This is very exciting. So this morning I did my love move reset and it was the latte of love. And I was like, I'm not going into this conversation with fear or anxiety. I want to go in to connect. I want to go in to pour into her and make it about her, not all about me. So I did this love move in preparation of getting to chat with you. So that way I could show up and be the kind of person that could bless you and not make it all about me. So I think it's being aware of when are my shoulders tensing? And when am I getting that feeling in the back of my neck? Or when am I thinking thoughts that, oh, nope, these aren't of God? That's when I need a reset so I can refocus and move forward.
That's good. So it's like prompting yourself, going, okay, what do I need right now? Oh, I bet I need the reset.
Yes, it's that awareness. And so often, a lot of times we blame it on memory or we blame it on just life being lifey, but we go into moments and we just feel exhausted and drained and overwhelmed. We go, why did I walk into this room? I don't even know why I'm here. And it's not a defect. It's just that our attention has been so depleted that we need a recharge. So we need to go reset in Jesus so we can capture our thoughts, put our stress cycle away, and actually move forward and experience the beautiful life in that next moment that God has for us.
And I think this is really important even when it comes to goals, like going after your business goals, your life goals, things like that, because in order to actually get to the finish line of them, we have to step out of our comfort zone. We're going to have to go through hard things. We're going to be pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves in ways that we don't know. And we need God to do it too. But it seems like the reset would be helpful in that way because it's like when we get to that point of wanting to quit, when we get to that point of we don't see the results, we don't see the results very fast, but you know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't be looking at that, but those things like the overwhelm, that's when a reset could probably help with that. Because it's like, no, the reason that we're going after our goals is because God has placed that desire in our heart and it's a piece of us moving the kingdom forward. Whether that's in your job, it's in maybe you're in a ministry, you're in business, whatever it is, wherever you are working for the kingdom. And so there is reason to keep moving forward, but we are going to need those resets in order to do that. So how do you correlate that with goals?
I think that's a great question because I don't know about the women you work with. I'm assuming a lot of them might be a lot like me, where they have what you call the imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like God's laid something on your heart and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, Lord. But the reality is, you don't feel like you can do that because you're not that person. You've never done that thing before. You've never had to be that person before. And so all of it feels very new and scary. And so you go, well, this person's successful and they're doing it better than me. And I just don't think I'm enough. God, how am I going to do this thing? And I think when we go after goals, so many times we sink our own battleships because we go, well, I can't do that. I just don't think, are you sure it's me, God? Kind of like Moses, like, are you sure? Like, I'm the guy, like, this is what you want. But the reality is it's normal. Like, let's just put it out there. Like, if you are out there feeling it and you're like, well, I'm an imposter, Ash. Like, that's me. I don't think I should be doing this. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't have the skill set, the mindset. I don't have any of it. You're normal. You're not broken. You're very normal. And you're running on autopilot. You're in system one. And the reality is you have to get uncomfortable and go to system two. So system two is where things are a lot harder. Your brain's working way harder. You're very uncomfortable and you have to consistently start doing something new. And as you're doing it over and over again, so talking about waking up with those love move resets, how you're starting your day, how you're pouring truth in, as you do those things consistently, what's going to happen in your brain is your brain creates new neural pathways. So let's say you always woke up and you go, oh, I'm so tired. I don't know, I'm gonna get through the day. Help me, Jesus. And you go get your cup of coffee and you muddle your way through the day. Well, let's say, okay, I'm going to wake up every morning and I'm going to start with a love move reset, whatever one you decide, you choose your cup of coffee, however it goes. And you do that every day. It's not going to feel good for, maybe day 3 or maybe day 5. But if every day you're getting up and saying, oh, this is good morning, Lord, praise you, Abba Father. This is what I'm doing. I want to give this to you. And he has questions that take your brain and your thoughts in a new direction. Over time, those new neural pathways are going to go into system one. You are replacing your old autopilot with this new way of being. And when that happens, you have the new pathways and the old ways of responding and reacting. Those they get pruned out and they go away. So you've literally changed the shape of your brain so you can wake up and you can start to respond. And you can start to do that in all the areas of your life. So if you're going after goals and you're like, oh, I so badly want to be a coach and I want to help women with XYZ, but I don't know how to be a coach. I've never done that kind of thing. Well, no, you haven't. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable, my friend, but you're going to have to go into system 2 and you're going to have to start doing things differently and consistently, because as you and I both know, it's not a one-time thing. If you're going to become something new, if you're going to go from glory to glory and start becoming closer to who God created you to be, to the heart and mind of Christ, it's going to take some work. And it's going to take some trust. So you start consistently doing it. And the beauty of it is spiritually and scientifically, it will produce change.
So good. So I love this. A few questions as we kind of like wind down. I'd love to hear, is there any scripture that's become personal to you in this journey of thinking prettier thoughts?
I would have to say the one that always gets me, and I'm going to misquote it, and I know not everyone's a fan of different translations, but there's a verse in Psalm 23, the one we kind of talked about earlier, where it says, my cup brims with blessing, and I stay in the house of the Lord, and there's beauty in there too. Go look it up, find it. But for me, when I read it, it was kind of like this idea that in front of us is this cup. And right, so often we look at this cup and we go, oh, this is hard. Jesus said, take this cup from me. These things are hard. But the reality is God's goodness is in the heart. It's always been there. It will always be there. So that reminds me that I can let Jesus fill my cup. I can brim with blessings and I can look for God's goodness in each of those moments. So that was kind of the wake up verse. I have it printed on things. You don't believe me because I can't quote it, but it's there. And
I'm the same.
I was like, okay, my memory, where am I at? But it's like, that just filled me up in a different way because I like things beautiful. I mean, I like a beautiful house. I like beautiful socks. I like beautiful pants. I like things of beauty to be surrounded with. So to say that God's already surrounded us with this beauty and this goodness, it's just up to us to take that cup and drink and experience it. Not that life is perfect, but with God, it's light. It's not dark. It's that lightness. So that's probably my favorite verse right now that got me through these stages.
I love it. I'm glad that I'm not the only one because I know scriptures and I study, but I cannot tell you where they're found most of the time. Like I have to have it written in front of me to remind myself.
It makes
So
me feel way better. I was with another podcaster. She's a beautiful woman. I love her. And she's quoting scriptures and references. And I'm going, how are you doing that? Tell me more. I was like, that's what I really wanted to ask. I was like, what's your secret?
I know that's what I'm thinking. Because yeah, anyway. So for those who are listening and they're feeling overwhelmed, they're stuck in that spiral, maybe they have that imposter syndrome. What would you say is the one thing they could do today, right now, to start begin thinking of prettier thoughts?
The first thing is if they just identified themselves, they're like that person in the back of the room. They're like, oh, that's me. Or you're in the car and you're like, yep, imposter syndrome, feeling a little overwhelmed, a little shaken, all those things. You just did the first step. You noticed and you identified it. You said, oh, that's me. Because so often we just can't raise our hand. We can't admit that. But to come from that place of humility to say, oh, actually, I don't have it all together. I could use a little more Jesus. I don't know what that looks like. That noticing, that awareness, it's always the first step is awareness. So right there, just give yourself a cheer, like pat yourself on the back because you are aware. And that's already a shift from what you've already done. And the next thing that I would invite you to do is, if it's with me, like come get a cup of coffee. I will send you a link. It's probably one of my favorite love moves. It's called the espresso shot of joy. I will give it to you guys since, you and I can have a cup of coffee, but, I can't with all your listeners. But make that just your one choice. When you go, "Ooh, I've noticed I'm feeling this way. I'm aware of it." Now choose to do something different about it. So if that's you go on and you get it in the show notes and you go, "Okay, I'm going to go get my espresso shot of joy. I just want to try for the next week, waking up every morning and trying something different, getting into my system too, and starting to create real lasting change. Just wake up with me and coffee, and we'll have some coffee, we'll have some Jesus, we'll have some movement, and we're going to start to reset and refill you. And eventually, if you're consistent, if you're super boring about it and you just keep going, you're actually going to have real lasting brain change. Because I'll be honest, there's a lot of hard things going on in my life right now, but I don't feel the hard. I feel the joy. And that is nothing to do with me because I cannot do that on my own. It is only by the power of Christ and how he has created us to move forward. So I would love for other women to have that transformation, their heavenly makeover, to just get those prettier thoughts. But it starts with just one little step to choose to do something different.
I love it. And I'm looking forward to giving it a try as well. So we'll make sure to put that link in the show notes. Um, One of my favorite questions at the end of my episodes is, what does pursuing goals God's way mean to you?
I knew you were going to ask this. I knew it. I was ready. I actually really thought about this one because I thought, what a great question. And I'll be very honest because that's what we do here now. I am the poster child for what not to do. So if you're like, wow, how do you build a business by God's design? Don't follow my method. Don't use my blueprint. I built everything out of order, Gabe, like shiny object style. If there was a new idea, I was like, oh, let's throw a dart, see what happens. Let's do this. I chased every expert, every strategy, every trend, just trying to fill this ginormous cup of expectations. And all it did was leave me drained. And what I've learned, and yes, I do listen to your podcast, is that a business by God's design isn't about outcomes. It's about obedience. It's coming to him with open palms and saying, "Hey, God, here's this idea. Is this for me? Is this for me right now?" And if he says yes, then you go do the hard, unglamorous, boring work. Be obedient. It's the spiritual equivalent of flossing because success isn't found in a spotlight. It's formed in those small, obedient steps that change you. And so often, I think we measure success by numbers, but God measures it by surrender. When your surrender and your strategy like finally shake hands, like, "Oh, nice to meet you," that's when you can work with God confidence, not because you've arrived, but because you've aligned. So my job is obedience. His job is outcomes. And honestly, it's been the most freeing thing ever because living from outcomes was tanking my battleship. It was a rough go.
I love that so much. Living in obedience and his job is outcomes. So good. And that is so aligned with my thinking. And because Ashriel, I did the same thing. I did listen to all the gurus. I tried everything. And
Yes.
what worked was when I did things differently because God told me to do it differently. And I was like, why? What do you want? Why do we want me to do that? How is that going to
Yeah.
work? It's just that's the way he works. And it's because then we really can't take credit for our results. We give God the credit and the glory. And it just works. It works so well when we surrender that.
Who knew? Surrender. Oh, it's amazing. It makes me feel better that you went through that too. But yeah, I mean, you should see my bookshelf. It's amazing the things that are on there. And it wasn't till this year that I was finally like, God's like, nope, this is you. This isn't me. And I think that the what you just said is kind of the whole crux of it is that it's not what we can do, it's what he can do through us. He gave us these gifts. He gave us these visionary ideas. He gave us these callings, some audacious, some small, whatever they may be. But the reality is, it's only through him that we can truly meet that. And then that's how we measure our success. Because if we measure it by the world's way, oh, it doesn't go well. It just leaves you like defeated, like crying in a corner, like, where's my princess bride, right?
Ooh, yes. Where is my Princess Bride? We can end on Princess Bride. We are going to have a Princess Bride party, but
I'm all in. Just
I'm,
let me know. I'll bring the popcorn.
I'm so geeky. It's great.